you hear about these murder rates and you're going, where is the outrage? Where are the politicians crying now about the gun violence in Chicago or Detroit or Baltimore? No, it's only a problem when they can use it against Trump. This is the Ray Ellis Podcast. Let's get behind the why.
Scratch that.
Welcome back to Behind the Why. Thank you, guys. We had a number of new subscribers here over the last week. Want to appreciate and thank you for joining the conversation. Remember, guys, like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. And let's get started in our conversation today. Today, I want to talk to you about, just throw this concept out there. We hear a lot of conversation about racism in this country. And that's not new to anybody. But what is new is this approach that's coming out. Just recently, we had the two shootings last week, and President Trump responded to them. And I thought that his initial response was good. You know, that in his response. There's some things about the red flag laws I'm not really crazy about.
Right.
I'm not really big on government too much intrusion, whether that's going to be a Republican intrusion.
It's a slippery slope. Definitely.
Yeah, and so I'm not crazy about that. I'm not crazy. I think that sounds more like an appeasement to me, something that the president threw out there to make the liberals feel like he's coming our way. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not crazy. I mean, it's too easy. Having worked in law enforcement for the last 30 plus years, I've seen too many times how people come in and make a complaint about someone they don't like.
Right.
And when I did sexual assault investigations, I can't tell you how many times I took a complaint because someone didn't like how the date ended. And all of a sudden we're investigating, we're hooking a guy up for rape, when in reality it turned out to be what we call a left without pay, or a dissatisfied with the service type thing, and it wasn't the same issue.
And then you have all these cry wolf type things.
And so we're arresting people, putting felony arrest on their record because this person was upset with them, not because that was a violation of law. And so what we're looking at here again now is that we have to go back and clean that up. But once that name is in the record, been charged with a felony, it's still in the record, even though it may show that it was unfounded. It's still in the record, and he was arrested for. And so when we think about these red flag laws, and you're familiar with those, correct?
Yes.
I just made an assumption. Okay.
Yes.
So, and when you start talking about these red flag laws in association with gun control and registration, it's too easy for me to say, well, I don't like that guy over there, so I'm going to just go over here now and just say that he did this or say he did that. And without some kind of governance on that, that's to me, that's scary. That's scary.
That's why I said it's a slippery slope, because like you're saying, we think someone could potentially do something, but even then it's hard to even manage that. Like, how do you know? Or if someone is, I don't know.
Especially if that someone's the federal government.
Right.
You know, if you look throughout human history, whenever the government is the only entity with arms and with power, then what you wind up with is, on one end, the government or the elite, the royalty in the castle, those rich people with all the armies and goods.
Right.
And then on the other end, you have the briggards, those guys who are living in the woods. No, the bad guys, not Robin Hood, because he was a good guy, but the other guy who actually did rob you. They robbed the rich and the poor and kept it for themselves. So, and in the middle, what used to be the middle class just becomes the lower class, and everybody lives off of them. That's
one thing, especially when it comes to Second Amendment issues, that gets me, is because on paper, this idea of socialism, we talked this before, it's like, okay, it could potentially sounds nice, right? It sounds nice, but people are corrupt.
Right.
And people get power hungry.
And to me,
it's inevitable that it's going to go awry.
I forget who it was that said it, and Ryan, you can fact check me on this later on, please. Said power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That may not be a direct quote, but that's close enough to the point that it speaks to the human, the animal part of ourselves.
Right.
Being a huge Star Trek fan, I love Lord Acton.
Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
He was acting the fool, when he said that.
Great men are almost always bad men.
Ooh, that's
almost like saying with great power come great responsibility.
I think that's what it's kind of saying. Lord
Acton. He was acting a fool. Just remember that. You remember it. If you say acting a fool, you remember it for the rest of your life.
Acting a fool. All right.
You remember that for the rest of your life now.
Okay.
And so we don't want to be acting a fool. No. So we want to have the power that we have as American citizens.
And wisdom. And with your wisdom, get understanding,
And
right?
that's somebody else who said that, right?
Yes.
That was the Lord Jesus Christ, through the whole power of the Holy Spirit, said that
Yep.
with your wisdom, with your zeal, get wisdom.
Right.
And so we see a lot of zeal. We see a lot of people acting out and pushing things and trying to make things happen. But what you don't see is a lot of wisdom. And because of that, here's another historical quote. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat the mistakes or the errors of history. And so we see these things kind of happening. And when I hear people talking about the president being responsible for these shootings, and the sad part about that is this, is that the persons who are saying those things know it's a lie.
Oh, yeah.
They know it's a lie. From the moment they utter it, they know it's a lie.
There's two different, when it comes to this whole thing, there's two different groups. Those who are intentionally lying to deceive the general public, and then those in the general public who are well-meaning but deceived in regard to that.
That's where the zeal comes from.
Exactly. Right.
Because now I dislike an ideology so much that no matter what you say that's in favor of that, then it's going to push it a certain way. I remember I told you this on the day after the election when President Trump was elected. I happened to be in Alabama for the election. I voted absentee ballot, and I had voted already for President Trump. And I was elated to see him elected over lying Hillary. But anyway, Hillary Clinton, did I? Inside voice, sorry.
You said lying Hillary.
I meant to say Hillary Clinton. Anyway.
Usually it's
so
crooked.
I was elated to see President Trump. But at the time, I was in the middle of a whole bunch of Democrats who were anti-Republican and anti-Trump. Even though at the time, and I'm talking to them, they could not give me a reason why they were anti-Trump.
Right.
It was a lot of anecdotal type statements that when you asked them for the whys, they were empty. And in the same token, they couldn't give me a reason why they were voting for Hillary either. It was still the same type of thing. It was like, well, I don't want Trump. I said, okay, but why are you voting for Hillary? They couldn't tell me. And the point that I wanted to make originally, talking about that zeal without wisdom, was that we were out the next day, and we're talking about the election, as you might imagine. And someone asked me who I voted for. And I said, well, I voted for President Trump. And immediately there, the environment became hostile. Some people I had known for a while, other people I had just met. Somebody was saying I ought to be shot and killed for voting for Trump. I'm like, seriously, this is your take on this. This is your turn. And again, we're watching that same type of, and I'm going to say this in this technical sense, not poking at somebody, ignorance. In the sense of what you don't know, not in the sense of somebody just being stupid, because that's completely different. But the ignorance there, the seed of that ignorance has continued to grow. We talked about this in a number of other shows, and how the black community in particular is very ignorant of its own political history.
Right.
The what's the word? The intrusion of the Democratic Party into the black community has always been to the negation of the black community. It's always bad, but we have been so ignorant of it that we've attributed it to somewhere, even though we see it, even though we're experiencing it. We talked about this last round. Baltimore, right? $2.4 billion in one city, black control, Democrat control, and the city's a cesspool.
Right.
And whose fault is it? All of a sudden, it's Donald Trump's fault. How in the heck is it Donald Trump's fault? But we can be so blind because of these issues that we can't see. So we go back to the shooting, the two shootings, one down in Texas and the one up north, and you go in. We will bend over backwards to blame everybody but the person who pulled the trigger.
And that's what gets me too, like the whole shooting in El Paso. You know, I guess the shooter was like a white supremacist, they had said. And so they're blaming, Trump about it. And then they're saying all Republicans are white supremacists, the same talking points we all know.
Right.
But even so, I'm like, really? You're blaming white supremacy. You're blaming the president for, like you're saying, the acts of an individual.
Right.
And now we're going to say, oh, this is a huge problem. And the other night on Tucker Carlson, he got a lot of flack for it. He was saying that white supremacy is not America's number one issue. He's like, that's a hoax, just like Russian collusion. You know? And he had so much pushback.
It's a big smoke screen to keep from dealing what's real.
Right.
And that's the whole thing.
And so I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, I totally agree with him. It's not the number one issue.
I don't even think it's in the top 10.
It's not.
Honestly, I personally do not. I know
Right.
there will be those who disagree with me, but things like abortion, things like medical situations.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's so many things.
Our
that come
healthcare
up.
situation, yeah.
The structure of our inner cities, the infrastructure, all those things. Those things are much higher than this idea of white supremacy.
Right.
Because you're going to always have people who are idiots. You're never going to get past that.
Right.
You're never going to get past the fact that there are idiots in the world who think I'm better than you because I'm
Right.
6 feet tall and you're only 5'5",
I
or
had
whatever the question may be.
I had a conversation with a professor talking about, and this individual is white, and they're saying, I couldn't imagine, if people were afraid of me because of the color of my skin, like that must be so hard walking with that every day, talking about black men. And I was like, and she's like, well, Idaho has a history of racism. I'm like, there's racists everywhere. I was like, there's racists everywhere.
That's a new lie that's coming out now that has been published, and it's getting national tread. And I think it has to go back to this now that we have this critical race theorist who's the president at Boise State. But this new idea now that's being pushed, and I heard it on national radio yesterday, was that Idaho is one of the top racist states in America. And I thought, what a lie. What a bald-faced lie.
There's history of racism everywhere.
Yes, and undoubtedly, you can check Idaho's history after the fall of the Civil War. A lot of the white plantation owners migrated here to Idaho,
right,
and it brought a lot of their history with them. We're not doubting that. At the same time, we look at the Hayden Ranch up there in North Idaho. All those things are true. Yes, we're not denying any of those things.
Right.
But at the same time, right here in Pocatello, Idaho is one of the longest established black communities in America.
Right.
Flourishing black communities in America. So you sit here and say those things and you pull one little piece out and one little piece there and try to make a statement out of it, and you get a whole bunch of nonsense. And when I find people doing that, especially now with this president, we have so many things in this country that we need to be dealing with. And because the people who are running for office, chiefly those on the Democratic side of the ticket, so much want this president to fail that they're willing to allow the country to burn in the process. What it reminds me of is, and history tells us this, that Nero hated the Christians. And he wanted to rebuild portions of Rome. So what did he do? He burnt Rome. And then when all the powers that be came to hold him accountable, he said it was the Christians that did it because they believed that the world's going to end in fire.
Oh man, this is too real.
So just push the attention off
America.
of me doing wrong to this.
They did it, right?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I can burn Rome, and you can be burned in the process. And we, the people, are sitting by letting this happen because we're afraid to get involved. We've been intimidated. People hitting people and slapping their hat. If they wear the MAGA hats, slapping the MAGA hats off their head.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Kids being suspended and put out of school because of T-shirts they're wearing because somebody might be offended by it. This kind of stuff is not American. And we, the people, have got to make it stop.
And it's so interesting because for the longest time I'd hear about things like this happening, and be like, oh, that's crazy. Wow, never happened here. But no, it happens everywhere. Right. Because I remember I had posted a picture because I got my MAGA hat. Right. And I had my Blexit sweatshirt. And the back of it says, liberals can't bully me. And I just really like it. And I'm like, yeah, Blexit, black exit from the Democratic Party. And anyways, I posted a picture. And I was just talking on the photo. I just said, it's great to be true to who you are. And you don't have to be what people expect you to be, because everyone expects me to be liberal, angry, black woman. That's what that's literally what they expect. And then when I speak, they're kind of like, oh my gosh, what? Anyways, I post this photo. I had people unfriend me at school. I had people come up. One gal in particular, very sweet, but you could tell she was real quiet about it and was like, that took a lot of guts. Like, I'm really proud of you. And I was like, really? Like, this is so funny, because I didn't even think that much about it as much as I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to rep it. Yeah. But it was like greeted with a lot of kind of confusion and pushback and surprise. I'm like, whoa.
When I wore my MAGA hat for the first time out, I went to a local coffee shop. Gone to that coffee shop 100 times. And I ordered a cup of coffee. And I'm not a fancy coffee drinker. I like drip coffee and add a little cream, a little sweetener to it. And I got my coffee, and I'm walking away, and I'm going, he gave me cold coffee. Because he was staring at my hat, and he gave me a cup of cold coffee. I'm like, so this is your answer to liberal, to freedom. This is your response.
Right.
That if you don't agree with me, then you can cheat me, you can misuse me, you can abuse me, but you're the one who's socially adjusted. You're the one who's evolved.
Right.
But you're the one who's acting like, Jim Crow. You're the one that's acting like the Klan.
Right.
You're the one that's burning crosses, quote unquote, but somehow you're in righteousness. And that makes no sense to me.
And I think one thing that's difficult too is everything's so polarized right now, right? We just had 31 people get their lives taken by these shooters, right? 31 people dead. Now their families are mourning.
Right.
And you have politicians taking that as opportunity
to get votes.
I'm like, really? There's real people hurting.
Here's the sad part to me as a law enforcement officer. I hear those numbers.
Yeah.
And they're tragic. But the thing that gives credence to the lie, should I say, when I hear these politicians talking about how much they want to control gun violence, when I hear these politicians talking about they care about minority lives, and then I look at the murder rate in Baltimore. Right. Then I look at the murder
Chicago.
rate in
Did you hear they had their most deadly weekend? I think last weekend.
Detroit.
It's crazy.
L.A. You hear about these murder rates, and you're going, where is the outrage? Where are the politicians crying now about the gun violence in Chicago or Detroit or Baltimore? No. It's only a problem when they can use it against Trump.
When it's a white person, that's when it's a problem.
When they can use it against Trump. That's the only time it's a problem. So I look at all this and I go, ugh. And in the middle of all that, see, this is a part that throws me off balance. It's the part that confuses me, that makes me angry. Is in the middle of all that, there are truly some people who call themselves Christians. Now, here is the caution that I would give to those who name the name of Christ. Two things in particular. One, the Lord warns us. He says to us in his word that to be aware of those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute truth for a lie or a lie for the truth. And you see this going out. And I see people even in the church who will substitute a lie for the truth. They'll take a lie over the truth. And whether we're talking about abortion, whether we're talking about the problem in the black community, or we're talking about the problem in the community in general, whether you're talking about
even the role of government, because the Bible has a lot to talk about that.
Very much to say about that. And you see all these issues, and you see people who are naming the name of Christ, who are either silent, and it reminds me of the letter from Dr. King in Birmingham jail, when he said, I accuse you, my white brothers, who are silent.
Right.
Not because you did anything wrong, because you stand by and let evil happen. And so when we have people who are in the church, who are calling themselves Christians, and we just let this evil happen. Why? Because the person who's doing it is black.
Right.
And we excuse it. Or the person who's doing it is Democrat. So we excuse it. We look past it. It reminds me of the catch with Kamala Harris on the last debate when the young lady from Hawaii.
When Gabbard,
you lied. And Kamala's like,
she didn't see that coming. She was like, you ruined my...
She's just shaking her head like, this is not true. But then she couldn't refute it, could she?
Because it happened.
She couldn't, because she was laughing about getting high and listening to Snoop Dogg or somebody, and then she putting people in jail for marijuana. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? You're going to be laughing about getting high and inhaling and smoking dope, listening to rap, which she still had her timeline wrong.
Yeah.
But and then talking about putting people, I'm hard on crime. How in the heck is that going to work? And everybody's still going, yeah, she's our girl. I'm like, come on, people. This is what we're talking about, this ridiculousness that happens within the church body. We've got to get past it. So I'm looking again. Here are these shootings. 31 people dead. A number of families hurt and abused, broken. And it will never be the same.
Right.
And then I hear people down in El Paso going, I don't want the president to come down here. What do you want? Another shooter to come down there? Stop being stupid, people.
Right.
This is what I'm saying. It's time to start putting things together. Time to start putting things together. The lies have got to stop. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So when you think about it, you almost want to throw your hands up at it. We were talking about this the other day about you got to fight the battle. The battle's real. even though on this level, it looks like you're going to lose, but you got to fight it anyway because it's a righteous battle.
Right.
And for the believer, I will tell you this. For those of you who are the believers, you have your opinions, you have your thoughts, and you're welcome to them. God won't deny you that. But I'm reminded of the Bible story of Jacob. If you remember the story, Jacob he's cheated his brother, so now it's 20 years later, he's going home. And he's got his wife and his children, and he's sending them up ahead with gifts and everything, and he's staying back and he's seeking the Lord. And he's scared to death that his brother's going to kill him because that's what Esau said. I'm going to kill you. So
I'm going to get you for that.
That was no debate right there. Esau said, I'm going to drain you, boy.
Yep.
Hang you by your feet. I'm going to drain you. So he was afraid that his brother's going to keep his word. And so he's out there. He's scared to death. And then he's confronted with the angel of God. And the Bible tells us that he wrestled with that angel.
Right.
And he wrestled all night long. He wrestled all night long. And the angel said, release me, for the sun is about to rise. And Jacob said, no, I'd rather wrestle with you than with my brother. He said, I'd rather wrestle with you, Jesus. And the Bible tells us that Jacob had to lose that wrestling match, and he was marred for it. He had his hip thrown out of joint.
Right.
And so he was marked for the rest of his life that he had a confrontation with God. And so what we find here is that we who are the people of God, we got to wrestle with Jesus. We got to wrestle with him over the ideas and the thoughts that we have in our head and in our mind and our hearts. We got to wrestle with him over that. We got to say, okay, Lord, what do you say is true? And at that point, we've got where we contradict or come against what God has said, we've got to lose.
Right.
We got to lose that wrestling match. And when we lose it, we got to come away marked. Right. So people can look at me and say, oh, you've been wrestling with Jesus, huh? That's why you don't walk like I walk. That's why when I open my mouth, he go, you don't sound like a black guy. Well, what do I sound like? You sound like something else. I hope I sound like Jesus. Because I ain't trying to rep being black, because being black didn't hang on the cross. Right. I know, guys, trust me when I say it, I'm a proud black man. But I understand black didn't hang on the cross.
Right.
America didn't hang on the cross. The White House, Washington, D.C. didn't hang on the cross. So my hope is not in Donald Trump.
It's not in government.
My hope is not in Washington, D.C. My hope is not in the great black hope, wherever that is. You see what I'm saying? My hope is not in some white guy saving me either, because he ain't about that. And I ain't about that. But what I got to be about is, am I about Jesus? Jesus asked his disciples what? He said, who do you say I am?
Right. Who do you say I am?
Who do you
And I feel like that's really where we're at right now. I'm sure around the world, but right now, at least in our little bubble of America, as believers, really having to decide. We said this a million times, but who do you say he is?
Who do you say Jesus
Who do you say he is?
And that's what it comes down to.
Do you believe his word?
It comes down to just that.
It really comes down to that.
Who do you say he is?
And I don't know. I just feel like it's definitely come to this time where it's like you have to decide. Because
I mean, the evil's going to happen. Shootings are going to happen. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shootings that never get reported. Trust me when I tell you that.
I feel like right now, people die every single day at the hands of others, but they're just reporting it more. So we're seeing it. As
a police officer, I see reports, I hear things that the media never talks about, and the common person never talks about, because they're not expedient. There's shootings that happen every day. A mass shooting is defined of what
4 plus?
No, it's one or more shot together, basically.
I thought it was 4.
No, it's like as little as 3, I know for sure. But where the motivation of the murder is not personal, it's considered a mass shooting. See, so if I go out there, if I'm an East Sider and I shoot a bunch of West Siders, that's not a mass shooting. See how they play with the language. So it's like, even though I may shoot 15 people, I may shoot 20 people.
So like gang violence?
It's not reported. It's not reported. It's like when Obama was still in the White House and the shooting took place down on that base down in Texas. And he didn't want to call it terrorism. He called it workplace violence. Well, yeah, they were at work when they got shot, but the guy who shot him was a radical Muslim who killed Americans. Okay, so it was terrorism. So you can change the words. That's the same thing they try to do in the shooting down in Southern California, not outside of Riverside. I forget the name of the town they were in. No, I can't remember what it was. But anyway, those guys, is right around Christmas. This guy goes in. He was a coworker. Went in there, him and his wife, and went back and shot these people. And they wanted to call it workplace violence. And it's like, what was it?
What year was it?
San Bernardino. It was in San Bernardino. That's right.
2015. 14?
Yep. And so he goes,
14 people were killed.
yeah, and they want to
14
call it
people.
workplace violence when the guy was a known terrorist. And that was when Apple didn't want to.
How is that workplace violence? Workplace violence? Really? Workplace violence is like, I don't imagine getting shot in the face as being workplace violence.
Well, if it happens at work, it's workplace violence. But the category, and I understand it's true. It's not a lie in the sense that it happened there.
Yeah.
It's a lie in the sense that they are covering.
It's
kind
kind of deceitful, though.
It is
really
straight up
is.
deceitful. And so
Wikipedia actually calls it a terrorist attack.
now they do.
Yeah, now they do.
When it was first released, though, it was released as workplace violence, and it's the whole thing was that, and that was why Apple didn't want to give the federal government the release codes for the phone, where they had all this information. It's like. So it's just the stupidity of it.
Right,
so to protect this idea, even Apple, this big company here, is protecting the people who are killing Americans. And they can cite all their, and I'm not trying to get Apple mad at me, but I'm trying to say it's so stupid when you lose sight of the forest because you're staring at a tree. And that's what we see around here now. People are so focused on Donald Trump that they're allowing the powers that be to destroy this great nation.
So focused on not seeing him succeed.
Oh, they don't want him to succeed at all.
Right.
They don't want to see him succeed at all. And they're willing to utterly destroy us all. I'm going to read a quote to you. Where did I put my glasses? Oh, I left them on another table, so I may not be able to.
I can read it for you if you need me to.
That one there. I left my glasses.
Those eyes.
That's what old age will do.
The top one?
That very top. I'll read that quote to us.
Okay,
please.
it's from Eleanor Roosevelt, former First Lady of the United States. Pit race against race, religion against religion, prejudice against prejudice. Divide and conquer. We must not let that happen here.
Oh, my gosh. Is that not today's world? Now, this is Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a lady who was instrumental in getting the Tuskegee Airmen off the ground.
And she's saying, let's not.
And she is a historical figure who was anti-racist down to the bone. She fought tireless. She was one who pushed her husband to, the Chicago 50? Port Chicago 50, I think it was. Pushed her husband to do the right actions there about those black sailors that were killed up there outside of San Francisco at Port Chicago. And here she makes it plain. If we divide ourselves, race against race, religion against religion, prejudice against prejudice, divide and conquer, we must not let that happen to us.
And look what we're doing today.
And that's what we're doing. You listen to those guys on their platform, separating.
Oh, yeah.
Separating black, Mexican, this, that. And it's like women, female. Any little group any smaller portion they can push us into.
Right.
That's what they want us to do.
It's all identity politics is what she said not to do. That's what it is.
And it's just, to me, is so crazy to think that we now as a nation are working to making that our reality.
I think I've said it before. It's like we're totally going backwards. On campus, now they have a black graduation ceremony. They have an LGBTQ graduation ceremony. I'm like, what? The main graduation ceremony is enough? They're like, yeah, because that's the white one. Really? It's never been.
Hey, I got a quote for you. From a real racist. I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny. And I say, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. Governor George Wallace.
Was he a Democrat?
Democrat.
Yeah, because it's always been the party of racism. Look at
Governor
that.
of Alabama, standing on the front step of the University of Alabama, saying he will never let black students become a part of that university.
And this is what we're doing again.
And here we are now. But now we're saying
but it's under the
segregation now, segregation forever.
And it's under the guise of social justice. This is the right thing to do.
We're doing it to ourselves. We make you feel good about it. We make you feel good about going backwards. And you ask yourself,
I'm selling you your own oppression.
If you can just open your eyes and see the reality of what's happening. But as long as you're willfully blind, as you're willfully stupid, then we are already a damned nation. Because we have sown to the wind and we're reaping to the whirlwind. And there's only one way to stop it, y'all. I'm going to use one of y'all words now. You got to get woke. You got to wake up. We used to sing this song back in the 70s. I don't think we can even sing it now. We just saying Whitehead and McFadden. Wake up, everybody, stop that sleeping in school. You see, used to sing songs like that. Now we can't sing that. We tell kids, it's your right to sleep.
If you're tired,
it's okay. Go to sleep.
There's something else going on, so take a nap.
Ain't no stopping us now. Now we stopping ourselves and saying it's our right to be stopped. All those songs we had as anthems of people coming out of oppression, now we can't even sing them anymore because they're politically incorrect.
Shame.
But I just want to say, guys, as we end another episode of Behind the Why, this takes you behind our why. This is what we believe. We believe that America was created and cut apart from the rest of the world by God to be a light in these last days. And trust me when I tell you guys, we're coming to the last days. The church in America right now is starting to experience what the church around the world has experienced over the last 100 years.
Right.
We're starting to find judges now telling Christian pastors what they can and can't say from the pulpit. So we're starting to experience some of those things that the rest of the world has already experienced. The same things that God said would be. So now it's up to you and me who call ourselves Christians to answer this question. Who do you say Jesus is? Because how you answer that question will determine how you live your life. So until next time, guys, God bless you. God love you. I'll be praying for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Invite your friends, as I said, to be a part of this conversation. Let's talk about it. If you have ideas, especially if you disagree with me, let's talk about it. Leave your comments here, and we'll talk about it. Until then, may the Lord bless and keep you. We're out. Peace.
Peace.